10 drivers per side. And I guess that would explain the name of the BGVP NS10 in-ear monitors. And we're going to check these out today. Let's get it. What's cracking, audio fans? It's David here from Prime Audio Reviews. So the BGVP NS10, look, it's retailing at $169. Inside, I love that little logo. That's sweet. Looks great. Where are they? I hope I can show you the... Yeah, finally. Here they are. Here they are. You get bass ear tips and you get bass ear tips. That's something's not right there. Something's not right there. I got two different sets of tips, but they're both called bass ear tips. I think I've got the wrong holder for one of them. Obviously, one of them will be like vocal ear tips or something. You also get a pair of foam ear tips, so a nice selection there. That is always a good way to start. Let's have a look at the IEMs now. Boom. So these babies have got 10 drivers per side. They've got dual dynamic drivers and 8 balanced armatures. Quite impressive. On top of that, they come with 3 pairs of tuning filters. And let me just show you how those work real quick. So I've got the red filters on right now. You just unscrew them like that, and you can swap them out with the other ones. The other ones, these are called the bass filter. The silver one, I believe, is called pop, and the gold one is called hi-fi. So you get 3 slightly different sound profiles out of the box, which is pretty nice. Also, if you've watched my videos before, you might have seen some of these yellow core ear tips, and the ones you've seen, they probably came out of a BGVP box, because they do provide nice ear tips, and these ones fit my ears really well. I love them. Anyway, back to the... Oh, by the way, nice leatherette or faux leather carrying case. Pretty sweet. Have a look at that. That comes in the box as well. But first, before we get into the IEMs, which are connected via MMCX, unlike most which use nowadays the 2-pin variant, have a look at this lovely silver-plated copper cable. It is really nice. But what I like about it most is, it's modular. So you get the 4.4mm balance termination. This is the one I've been using the most. You get the 3.5mm single-ended and the 2.5mm balanced. And it is a really, really nice cable. Adds a lot of value to the overall bundle. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Nice modular cable. Now on to the IEMs. There they are. Aviation grade aluminium housings. And they are pretty lovely. They come in grey and silver. These are the grey ones. So they're not particularly fancy on the outside, but they've got a nice finish. They feel good in the hand, and they are resistant to fingerprints, so you don't get any fingerprints on them. So they're always looking spick and span. There's the MMCX sockets right there. So they're built really well, and they are comfortable too. And the shells are reasonably compact. So 10 drivers jammed inside here, but they're not huge and bulky. So that is pretty sweet. Good shells. So what do you get from this 10 drivers IEM in terms of sound? Let's get into that. First of all, I will say these don't require any extra amplification. They're pretty easy to drive at just 12 ohms from memory, I think. But you can run these straight out of a phone or a little dongle or anything like that. And in terms of tuning, we are kind of fairly close to that Harman target, or one of the Harman targets, because there's actually more than one. But yeah, pretty close to a Harman tuning, but with a little bit of extra lift in the treble. Not enough to be hot really, but what sets these apart is their exceptional resolution really, with each instrument and vocal occupying its own space against a nice black background. The instrument separation and the imaging are top notch, and they produce a perfectly defined soundstage where each element's position and distance are clearly perceptible to the listener, in this case, me or you. They kind of have a forward stage positioning which thrusts you into the heart of the music, creates an immersive experience, while the width and the depth of the soundstage are pretty impressive. It was actually the height of the image that truly caught my attention. So pretty nice height in the perceived height in the soundstage, and that adds an extra dimensionality. Let's put up the graph here, and let's talk about the bass. The bass is boosted somewhat north of neutral. It's not quite at bass head level though. And despite that boost, the bass is fairly balanced with the mids and the treble, and it doesn't overpower the mids or the treble. It has a pretty natural decay that adds to its musicality, and it's not the fastest bass out there, but I found it doesn't trip over itself, and it can keep up with pretty much almost any music, fast-paced music. Doesn't have a problem keeping up. In terms of bass quality, it's got nice texture. It's got full-bodied sound, it's pretty satisfying, it's engaging. The bass attacks are clean and well-defined, so those leading edges that I'm always talking about. And that kind of allows you to easily discern individual bass notes, and the layering of the bass is also noteworthy. And these show good distinction between the drums and the bass guitar, so it's easy to distinguish between them. In other words, it's not just some big woolly monotone bass mess. It's pretty good quality bass. Mid-range. The mid-range is distinguished by its excellent instrument separation and spaciousness, probably thanks somewhat to those 10 drivers inside. The mids sound quite forward in the mix, despite having a lifted bass and treble. So I'd say the mid-range sounds pretty neutral. There is a hint of warmth added for naturalness, and I will say they do sound pretty natural. Male vocals have got plenty of richness and they're warm enough, but they're very clear and articulate. Female vocals also sound natural and very vibrant, but they're not shouty or sibilant. And overall, the mid-range is really detailed, it's very textured, and it's quite immersive. Like I said, up front, pretty engaging experience. Each instrument and vocal is distinct and well defined. There's no muddiness or congestion even in more complex tracks. And I'd say overall the NS10's mid-range strikes a nice balance between neutrality and warmth that makes it both expressive and easygoing. And finally we get to the treble. And the treble, it might be a little bit divisive for some people. If you are treble sensitive, this might just be a little bit too lively for you in the highs, but I will say it's pretty tastefully elevated, especially in the lower treble, and it delivers an abundance of clarity and detail without any harsh or edgy tonalities. Despite its liveliness and its sparkle, it's got a bit of sparkle too. It doesn't cross the limits of my tolerance for sharpness. You, however, might be different. But look, if you are familiar with the Harman curve and you sometimes wish for just a little bit more spice in the treble, you probably like these. So it's a nice crisp treble. It's very detailed. It's precise, and I think it's a pretty standout feature. Delivers ample detail and clarity, although, like I said, maybe too energetic for some listeners. Now, time for a couple of comparisons, and we're going to start today with the Echo OH10. And I will say right away that the OH10 cable is horrible in terms of handling. It will just manage to tie itself in a bundle of knots every time you touch it. The shells are beautiful. Look at that. Lovely, lovely, lovely. They are heavier than the NS10. Equally as comfortable for me, but if you don't like heavy IMs, you might not like the fit. So the OH10, it's about the same price, I think, 179 or 180, something like that. And this is only a dual driver unit. It's got one dynamic and one balanced armature compared to dual dynamics and 8 balanced armatures over here. But actually the frequency responses are reasonably similar. There are some key differences though, and mostly it's the OH10's core mid-range is more recessed, but it has some extra lift in the upper mid-range, and as a result the OH10 has a very spacious mid-range, albeit somewhat recessed, whereas vocals on the NS10 are more forward and up front. The Echo's treble level is similar to the NS10, but it sounds distinctly different. They peak and dip at different points at different frequency ranges, so they do sound quite different, although if you look at it roughly, the levels of treble look about the same. But the OH10's treble is less precise, it's softer and more diffuse, if you know what I mean. Combined with the less forward core mids and the upper mid lift, the OH10's treble sounds open and airy. This gives the OH10 a larger perceived soundstage, but with less precise imaging. So for a fairly bass heavy or bass forward IEM, the OH10 has got a really nice soundstage. It's one of the things I like about it, but in order to achieve that, they've sort of had to scoop out the core mid-range a little bit and lift the upper mids. Alright, and next we've got another benchmark in the sub $200 range, and that is the Moondrop Kato. There she is. Also got a beautiful cable, quite similar to the NS10's cable, but it is not modular. Now I know this isn't exactly an apples to apples comparison because the Kato is a single dynamic driver IEM, so it has 9 less drivers in each side, 9 less drivers than the NS10. However, it is a, like I said, benchmark sub $200 IEM, and when it comes to sound, so Kato's sub-bass extension is similar to the NS10, but it has a more forward mid-range, and that sort of brings the perceived level of the bass down a little bit. There's more emphasis on the mid-range with the Kato, and there is definitely a tilt or a lift in the upper mids compared to the NS10. This makes the Kato's presentation more intimate, like closer to the listener, and it makes it slightly smoother as well. And that's due mainly to a little bit more forwardness and fullness in the core mid-range. The treble, however, is further back in the mix compared to the NS10, and that's because this is a mid-centric IEM. It sort of throws all its eggs into the mid-range basket. As a result, the Kato's soundstage is smaller and it has less width. It's not as wide. In addition, micro details are not as forthcoming on the Kato. You do get more micro details on the NS10. Both are really nice IEMs. Look, if you really want forward mid-range and you don't mind a sort of something leaning maybe towards a little bit shouty in the upper mids, female vocals are quite prominent here. They really get in your face. Overall, the NS10 is a little bit brighter. It does have better clarity, and they're fairly similar in technical performance. However, the NS10 does have a more expensive soundstage, and I think I'll wrap it up there. That is the BGVP NS10 coming in at $179 US. Look, I think these are pretty sweet. They're actually quite nice. I do like them a lot. They're not exactly game changers. They're not class leading or anything, but I would put them up there. I'd say they hold their ground well against other IEMs in their price category. So yeah, check them out. Got my affiliate links down below, along with links to my social media channels and the full written review. Thanks for watching the video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, ParFam audiophile style. If you want to support the channel, check out the Patreon link down below. And if you're new here, or if you haven't subscribed yet, consider hitting that subscribe button so you don't miss out on content in the future. And until next time, I'll see you later.